The village and parish of Fenagh in County Leitrim are steeped in history. Those born and bred here, and all who live in the area, are heirs to a very long educational tradition. St. Cillian founded a school in the 6th century. The ancient abbey walls indicate a seat of learning in the 12th century. Our celebrations of 1998, however, are about more recent generations of scholars. After the Irish national school system was introduced in 1831, the first official schoolhouse was the small thatched building we now know as Cox's. Jimmy Cox, who lived beside the old hall and ball alley, was the local blacksmith, and he lives large in the memory of every past pupil. This small building housed about 80 pupils and survived throughout the famine times. In 1863, the school moved to Heaney's at the top of Noon's Brae. This was the schoolhouse accommodating up to 100 children until 1898. In 1898, Fenagh National School, the main focus of our celebrations, was built. Like the schools at Cox's and Heaney's, it was in the townland of Fenagh. It was a fine building in its day and accommodated over 120 scholars at one stage. It was the principal seat of learning for 10 generations of Fenagh children. It's now the home of the Mullen family. In 1965, a new school was built on the Commons and named St. Cillian's National School. This became the central school for the whole parish, replacing Dramani, Carnagon, Gloucesterman and Fenagh Old School. Because of renovations to St. Mary's Church, Foxfield and the community centre, the old school reunion takes place in the new school and the Mass is in Gorva Chapel. Coming together are about 250 pupils from many countries. All have roots in Fenagh, and many haven't met for years. This is the time for registration, bringing back memories of many a roll call in the old days. One classroom is set aside for memorabilia: the masters' and mistresses' tables, old desks, maps, the press in the corner near the fire, the fireplace, the turf, the coal, and the bucket of water from Bland's well. But of course, it's the people who keep the memories alive. It's obvious they're enjoying themselves, and many are ready to share memories and stories of bygone days.
how are you? How are you? Thanks for all the work. I never realized that you knew that I was here. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Thanks. You must be old. How are you? But hello, and since he's the young one, the youngest to be old. You wasn't see what he wasn't a bit anyway.
No. Hello, Billy. Hi.
How are you?
Hello. Together here at the school. We had.
Were you with you or you? Are you the one of you with the last name?
Jared.
Yeah.
Hello, how are you?
Just past pupil from Fenagh School that we're here today. Can you remember when you went to school in Fenagh?
Of course I wouldn't mind when I went to school in Fenagh.
What year was it, Frank?
They want to say 1916.
1916, yeah. And
It was about 1970, I mind in 1916.
yeah, about 1917.
About 1970 we went to Fenagh School.
And can you remember any of the pupils that went to school in your time?
It wasn't all over classes and all over class. You want the names, I suppose, and all. But my Jim, well, Jim wasn't looking. No, we were hired. Willie McQueen, Mike Miller, and Mahabaden and William McQueenie. Stella Murphy, Mona Carey, and some of there was my own girl from Mahabaden.
That's right.
And,
That's right. Can you remember your school days, Frank?
Yeah, sure I can remember.
As clear as could be.
As clear as could be, sure.
That's great. Master Murphy and Miss Scollin were teachers.
Yeah, they were the teachers, and right good teachers were too.
Yeah. What does this day mean to you, Frank? Is this a great occasion to come back?
A great occasion, I know.
Well,
Just a great occasion.
it is a great occasion. Well, Frank, we're delighted to have you, and I hope you enjoy your day.
Right, too, mate.
Best of luck.
What's this?
You have a funny incident, a story to tell from your days in Fenagh School. Maybe you just tell it for us now.
I don't know, Michael, but there were several funny incidents indeed, but I think there was one thing that stuck out in my mind was there was one day there was came like a sudden thunder shower or something, and of course when play hour came the master wouldn't let us out to the yard. You could go out down to the toilet but run back. And Michael Sweeney was left doorman inside with a brush up against the door, you know. And when you came back then you were supposed to knock on the door and Michael let you in. But Michael was getting a little bit careless any in the latter end, and this knock came to the door. Michael didn't take the brush from the door. The next thing it came a little bit louder. It still didn't come from the door. It came louder still. The next thing Michael pulled the brush from the door and he says, "Will you push, ye push," he says. And who walked in? Only Father Turtle. And from us being very, very aggressive young lads and everything, the next thing we're all little angels to see when we saw the priest coming in. And we thought that the priest would tell the master about us having terrible bad manners and everything. But when we saw him going in the door, I thought there was a smile on his face to see. He saw the funny side of it, but we thought we would be in deep trouble. But he didn't tell anything bad to the master anyway. Yeah. But I thought there were several funny incidents, you know. But that's the story, Michael. Thanks
very much, Paddy.
Yeah, thank you.
You're right. John Ellis, TD, you went from Fenagh School to Dáil Éireann, and I think that's fairly unique. Maybe you tell us something about that.
Well, I suppose I'm the only one from it who was lucky enough to make it that far. When I was in Fenagh School, Dáil Éireann was so far away from my mind that I didn't even know where it existed. I left Fenagh when I was in 5th class, which was unusual at the time. But I don't know why. My father said that I should go to secondary school in Ballinamore, so I left at 12, which would normally at most would have been 13 or 14. Yeah. But I can always remember Fenagh School. The memories from Fenagh School would be very pleasant. I can remember Master Wren. I remember when I first went to school to Mrs. Hearden was the teacher. And there's a very funny incident which probably stays with me more than anything else from my school days in Fenagh. She sent home a little note to my mother, Lord have mercy on her, to sew the pockets of my trousers that I put in most of the day with my hands in my pockets, and she couldn't get me to do anything. And I went to school the next morning not knowing that the hands was in the pockets, or the pockets had been sewn, and I went to put my hands in my pockets, and I can still see Mrs. Hearden looking down and saying, "Your mother got the note." I didn't realise what it was for a long time after. But I have fond memories of the old school as it was. Master Wren was very good to me. He was good to everybody. You always worried a little about him that he could get cross, but when he got cross, he wasn't vindictive, and I think that's a very important thing in any teacher, that if they have a disagreement with any pupil at any stage, that it's forgot about there and then, it wasn't taken in the next day, and that was definitely his way of teaching. He also taught us a lot of things that stayed with us in later life. He gave us an opportunity to respect our fellow pupils, and that was important, because you respect everybody irrespective of where they come from or what they have done or what they may do in your life, because as you travel the world you'll discover that humility and courtesy is the two cheapest commodities, but you remember very quickly the people who don't treat you courteously. The people who are courteous to anybody will be well remembered, and I think that the teachers in Fenagh would be well remembered by the pupils for their courteous way of looking after us. It's much different now. There was no television, there was a radio, the school tally sheet went up every day, the tally board. In fact, it's good to see it inside today. It's one of the real reminders, and to see the pouch and tobacco knife and pipe of Master Wren is something else that it's a total memory, and it's a memory that's fond I think for everybody. And to look back on it and to look at where I've been since, I still think that they were the most carefree days of my life. It's now a different and much faster world, and the way that Fenagh School was in those days would be the ideal situation if we all could have life like that. There's no doubt about it.
Thanks very much, John.
No problem. Thanks, Michael.
Enjoy your day.
Well, it's a great day for everybody, I think. It's a great day.
Thank you very much. Vera Carey, sitting in the trap that Miss Scollin used to come to school in Fenagh. Miss Scollin taught from, I think it was 1875 to 1925, and she used this trap and a donkey to travel to school. Brian Kennedy, who was holding the pony, acquired the trap some time ago and restored it to its beautiful condition that you can see today, and we're very grateful to Brian for doing that. Formerly Vera Carey, of course. You're now sitting, as we mentioned before, in your teacher's, Miss Scollin's trap.
Oh, only just about 80. And the owner of the trap was Miss Scollin, the former assistant teacher in the school, Fenagh School, to which I went in the first days of my life. I was 5 years, in 1916. That's the age for you all now, when I started school. And I have very happy memories of Miss Scollin. She was a very gentle, I would call little old Victorian lady, is my memory of her. And my mother was a teacher also, and she sent me on a message with a sister of mine over to Miss Scollin with a message. And Miss Scollin, at 8 years we were, she brought us to her sitting room, put us sitting in very comfortably, and they gave us each a glass of sherry. The first glass of wine I was ever given at 8 years. And I'm 80 years having it on and off, so if you want a recipe for long living, get down to your sherry. She taught the infants in the school I was in Fenagh. Master Murphy was in the senior part of it. But this is the actual trap. I believe that God bless poor Miss Scollin. I hope she's better off than any of us are. She used to bring us to school in this trap because we came the same road. And I'm very happy to be allowed to speak here. And I'm thanking everybody who found me out and brought me back here after all those years. I'm probably the oldest person in the party. I'd love to know anybody who's over 90. Anybody over 90?
No, I don't think so.
No, they're not listening. Well, then anybody. Anybody over 87? Oh, I'm the eldest in the party.
Yes.
I'm probably the eldest in the party here today, but God has left me very good health, by and large. So I don't know what else to say, but that they are having a lovely, enjoying themselves very much, and I'm very thankful to everybody.
Thank you very, very much. That's Vera Carey. Now, in the trap today also, we have Jimmy McHugh, who came from America, wasn't it, Jimmy, to be with us today. Have you any little memories or anything you'd like to say? Just